Hey guys, welcome to the devlog. Today I really wanted to show you how I created the new room, the snow globe room, and walk you through my process for doing it. So I start out by using the same background that I do for my bear room, but this time I have a little rectangle in it that we are going to be turning into the snow globe machine. So to start this out, I just want to get the silhouette of the machine. So for this machine, I want it to be pretty tall because the snow globes are actually going to fall down the center. And I thought that would be cool that the actual item has a little animation. I've sketched this out on paper before going in with pixel art, and I realized that extra step really helps me design new items to put in the game. After I've gotten the silhouette, I tried to shade the different parts of the machine. For the tube, I really wanted to make it look like it was round. It's kind of a tedious process, but it gets a pretty nice result. And I'm going to use that same principle on the pipes. For this machine, I wanted to try making the machine look like it was made out of multiple different materials. So I actually tried to make these pipes look like copper. To be completely honest, I made most of this up while I was coloring it, but I liked where it was going. To really sell the copper, I wanted to try giving it some green oxidization. I thought that would look really cool and add a little more life to the machine. At this point, I really liked how the machine was turning out, but I want to add a base to it so that the lever can go on top of it. It also might help with that whole floating off the ground look we have going on right now, which is not exactly what I drew in the sketch. So at this point, the machine is basically done. I'm glad I decided to try to add some rust and damage on it. I think it really brought it to life. So the last stage of designing a new machine is adding some adjustment layers to change the colors. The color work for this machine is going to be real simple. I just want to change the color of the first tube section so that it's not all brown. Alright, and with the machine done, I'm going to move on to designing the room. Now, I'm so glad I decided to finally be smart about this and make these modular pipe pieces instead of trying to draw out the pipes by hand. That ended up being really tedious and really boring. So doing it this way means I only have to draw each pipe piece out once, and then I can put the pieces together in the final room. So at this point, I have all the pieces I need to start actually configuring them in the room. I have pipes of multiple different sizes. I have these mystery boxes that the pipes will travel to. And then I have these images of windows. Now, these aren't the same windows that'll be going in the game. These are just pictures of them, but the windows that'll be going into the game are sprites, which is basically like a picture with animations. Once I've finished arranging my room, I can move on to the arguably most important part of a snow globe room, the snow globes. For the globe, I want to have a cozy looking house inside of it. I also want it to look like there could be snow inside there. And this is the first time I've tried to make anything that really looks like glass, so we're gonna see how this goes. So this is what I got. To sell the glass effect, I tried to add lighter colors near the middle of the globe and also a really light rim around the globe. And then I added this little reflection in the glass. I'm happy with how the house turned out. I think it looks pretty cozy, and I'm just adding some snow to the base. By the way, sorry about my screen. I know it's a little cut off. That was because I forgot to change the resolution when switching to a different screen. And I promise I fix it later, but I haven't noticed at this point, so sorry about that. Alright, with the machine done and the snow globes made, I'm going to be breaking these up into layers and then exporting them as their own images. So the machine is going to be its own image, and then the pipes are going to be its own image, and the background. Alright, so I've exported all of my images from Photoshop and imported them into Unreal. Now I want to turn them into tile maps. I have to turn them into tile sets first, but when I turn it into a tile map, that basically allows me to put it in the world, and I can even add collision to it so that other things can interact with it. Once I have all my tile maps, I want to actually turn that into the room and the machine I need. So I'm going to create a child blueprint of both my base machine and my base room, which happens to be the bear room. Once I have these child blueprints, the task is to go through and change out all the tile maps with the new ones for the snow globe room. I also already have these window sprites from the previous room, but I wanted 4 windows, so I just added 1 more. So that a toy will spawn when the machine is clicked, I copied some code from the bear machine and put it in the snow globe machine. I didn't have this code in my base machine blueprint because I wanted the toy spawn to be specific to the machine. So I put my snow globe room in the world, started playing the game, and I'm trying to click the machine, but nothing seems to be working. So this is actually because of something I alluded to earlier. It doesn't have any collisions. This is important because to click the objects, I use a line trace, which is basically a line that spawns when I click that goes from my mouse cursor to some point in the distance. When something blocks that line, it's been hit by the line trace. And objects that have been hit, I can actually activate code on, like to spawn the toys. Alright, so the machine seems to be spawning toys. The wrong type of toy, but that's what we're going to fix right now. We're going to actually make the snow globe now. So I'm going to start out by importing my snow globe images. I'm going to use the base toy blueprint and make my snow globe a child blueprint of that class. And then just as with the room and the machine, I'm going to replace all the tile maps with tile maps of my snow globe. Alright, so this is the first real test with the snow globes, and it seems to be spawning them fine. So I actually want to add animations to these globes. I said earlier that I wanted the globes to fall down the main tube, so that's what I'm going to be doing first. So I'm going to use a move component 2 so that I can move the globe from the top of the tube to the bottom of the tube. Once the globe hits the bottom of the tube, I want the snow globe to actually move along the conveyor. I also turned my main snow globe invisible until the globe hits the bottom of the tube, and then it will be visible and it'll look like it connected and went along the conveyor. Alright, so that seems to be working pretty well. I just want to add an animation to the base. And we'll test this out again. That seems to be working really well. I like how this is turning out. So the next part of this process is really big. I need to be able to spawn the rooms in-game. To do that, I'm going to go over to the room spawner blueprint. And I set this up. It has most of the code that deals with spawning new rooms and loading rooms from the last game. It makes sure each room has the correct data it needs to actually spawn. And by data, I mean whether it should spawn with a soldier or what iteration that soldier should be. I have another blueprint called the HUD, which actually saves all that information. It stores it all in an array, so it has an array for every room and the data on each one, and it saves that to the save game. And then the room spawner will get it from the save game, and it will spawn a room based on that data. So if the first item in the array is a bear room with a soldier in it, the room spawner is going to take that data and spawn a bear room with a soldier in it. And for the train rooms, and now we're going to be implementing the snow globe rooms. First things first, I want the room spawner to know what location the snow globe rooms will be spawning. So I'm going to use the same location as the bear rooms, but add some add some in the X so that it's a little over from both the bear rooms and the train rooms. So I need to make sure the game knows that there's a new type of room to spawn. I set this up earlier, so I'm going to add the snow globe room to this enumeration. And basically the way I'm using this enumeration, it's kind of like a multiple choice list. So it's an input on the spawn room function. And so when you call that function, you can decide what room you want to spawn. And then in here, I'm changing which code actually runs in the spawn room function depending on what you picked. We're now setting this up so that I can spawn our snow globe rooms. Now I want each room to spawn a little lower than the last one. So I'm gonna do a little bit of math here, and I'm gonna add a negative 150 to the Z every time it spawns. I know you could just subtract 150, but sometimes I do things a little backwards, and for the sake of consistency, I'm just going to add negative 150. I want to turn this spawn snow globe room into a variable called current snow globe room, and I'm going to use that in a little while. Now I want to add each snow globe room to an array for all my snow globe rooms. Now this isn't the same array I was talking about earlier that lets me save and load things or spawn new rooms. This is only for the snow globe rooms, and it's actually a different type of array. These arrays are for objects, whereas the one for saving and loading is an array of structs. Big difference being this can only keep track of things that are already in the world, whereas an array of structs can hold the data for objects without them having to exist yet. That was really big and kind of a pain to figure out, but I'm glad I did because that allows this system to work. Now I want to call a function called add room, and this is a custom function for the HUD, and it will basically add one to each room type whenever it's called. So that allows it to display in the stats. Okay, lastly, this is the most important thing, giving each room the data it needs by setting the struct inside of the room to be the same as the struct used to actually spawn the room. So each room will use that data to add a soldier to itself or change the speed of the soldier based on what level it is. And then we'll also update the HUD on that, which updates the save game, and the cycle starts over. All right, off to a great start. We have a lot of the functionality, but none of this really works without a button. So let's start making that. So I'm just going to use the same button image that I used for the train room button, and of course change the name, and I'm going to add some new colors that are kind of more specific to this room. I'll also just duplicate the train room button and give it a new image inside the game. Alright, so in the HUD I need specific variables for the snow globe button. This will be for whether the button has been unlocked or not, what the price of the button is, and whether it's been bought or not. The HUD will save this to the save game, and then the snow globe button will get that information from the save game when the game starts up and use it to determine whether it should be unlocked, what its price should be, all the stuff. Now to give this button a test. Okay, that just spawned a train room. That is not what we want. I think I know what happened though. Alright, so you might have even caught this one. I should have changed this to a snow globe room instead of keeping it a train room, and now I'm going to have to change my variable types as well. As well as that, I also forgot to change the spawn room when I call it inside of the snow globe room button, so I just set that to snow globe room, and now it should work. Alright, so the room has spawned and everything seems to be working. Thank you all for coming along on this, and I hope you stay tuned because soon we're going to be adding in a brand new research system, upgraded versions of the machines, and making the rooms a little more lively with some new windows. So thank you for coming along on this, and I hope to see you again in the next ones.